This video is brought to you by all the clickbait YouTubers that use the specific scene to bait you into thinking Alice and Kirito are kissing. Stay cool, stay with the real explained, don't approach failed imitations. What a trailer for Art Online Alicization War of Underworld. We got our big bad of the season as Gabrielle Miller and Emperor Vecta, more scenes of Alice in pain and having to don her Integrity Knight armor again, Kirito busy dual wheeling instead of dual wielding, Asuna getting sick of Kikoka's shenanigans, all of the Dark Territory leaders, and Alice is not attempting to kiss Kirito unlike what the hundreds of thumbnails on YouTube want you to think. Hey everyone, it's me Gamerturk and welcome to Alicization Explained, your most trusted source of Sword Art Online, featuring all the key details, secrets, and things you should know about the War of Underworld trailer. As always, timestamps to individual plot points are in the description, as well as the pinned comment for easy navigation. I recommend you check out my Alicization Invading opening explained as well if you're interested in more War of Underworld knowledge, as that opening has a whole lot of secrets and teasers as well. But if you're new to my Explain series, which has spawned a whole lot of copycats that more often than not share misinformation, what I do here is essentially provide you all the vital information on characters, events, action, lore from the source material, the light novels, things that the anime did not convey properly or just did not have the time to, so you can still see the full picture, and you should definitely subscribe and hit the bell icon to get all of that knowledge. But then again, if you want to read the books for yourselves for the amazing experience, Amazon and Book Depository affiliate links are in the description and the knowledge of Stacia awaits you there. But without further ado, let's begin with the obvious spoiler warning. All of the visuals we got in this trailer are from Sword Art Online Volume 15 Alicization Invading, the very beginning of War of Underworld. This is gonna be approximately the first 6 episodes of the second part of Season 3, so if you don't want any spoilers at all, you should probably leave now. Why are you even here? Equally, if you're hungry for a little bit more, you can check out my video for SAO Wikia Introduction to Alicization Invading after you finish watching this. I have provided a lot of teases there that should give you a decent outline of things to come without drowning you in spoilers, of course. If you didn't know, we also translated the trailer for you all to enjoy, so we can actually focus on what the characters are saying as well, and they are crucial. We start off months after the Battle of Central Cathedral with Alice's line towards Kirito, who is not in a condition to process any kind of information at all that he is receiving. You can find a detailed reasoning on that in my What Happened to Kirito video, so I'll spare you the details here. But as you can see, his instincts are still totally there as he's reaching out to the 3 divine weapons, 2 of them to be specific, Blue Rose Sword as a monument of Eugeo's memories and his own weapon of survival, the Night Sky Sword. I sure do hope Foxy Boy didn't tell you this was Alice's hand or something like he did with his bafflingly uninformed opening explained video. Jeez, that guy needs to read a book or 2. But yes, Kirito is in fact, well, you will see him reach out to the swords quite a lot. This specific scene is a key moment where the peaceful life Alice had set up for Kirito is completely shattered, and Kirito here is crawling on the floor with still no life in his eyes, mind you, shaking like a phone on silent, desperately trying to reach the sword to protect. To protect what exactly, you ask? We'll get there shortly, but first we take a detour back to the Ocean Turtle. Higa is quite certain whoever the raiders are, they want to have the only real bottom-up AI in Underworld, the goal of the entire Project Alicization, Alice in all caps, as that is the designation for the true bottom-up AI. However, what they don't know is that Gabrielle actually wants to capture Alice, not caring about the capitalized Alice that is the goal of the project. Meanwhile, Asuna has grown quite tired of Kikoka's shenanigans, who at this point stole about 10 years of Kirito's floodlight space, forgot to block his memories, causing him to decide to fuck up the entire simulation, and as if that's not enough, now they are under attack by mercenaries and Kirito is in the worst condition that he's ever been in. And it's one of the best scenes of Volume 15 Alicization Invading when Asuna is so fed up at this point that she grabs a top-ranking military official by his collar, lifts him up in pure rage. Of course, Kikoka is not your traditional military guy. Think of him more like the computer geek of the government that is responsible for games and stuff. That's literally who he is, so while he may act cool and all in certain circumstances, he does not really have much gravitas per se, whereas it's quite easy for Asuna to not see him as a scary person at all after all their past in real life and in Alfheim Online, of course. And while the on-screen text says Asuna is praying for the return of her loved one, the core 3 key visual has already shown you that she is doing more than just praying this season to save Kirito, and surely it's going to be much harder than she ever thought it would be. We get the same visual of her next to Kirito's STL unit as the previous trailer, and I love these early episode scenes before the animators actually start having deadline pressure. They even shaded her nails properly, and the promise ring from Ordinal Scale is looking as beautiful as always. So much so that I'm actually thinking A1 is giving additional care for every nook and cranny regarding Ordinal Scale to highlight that it's canon. The care they certainly did not give Eugeo back in episode 15. We go back to Underworld to an earlier scene than we were at before. Alice is trying to live a modest and peaceful life while building a healthy relationship with Selka. It's a huge dilemma for Alice as well, as she knows she's not really Selka's sister. In fact, she does blame herself for the passing of the real Alice Tuberg, who she uses the body of as a vessel of her own. However, it's Selka who does not mind any of this at all and gets close to Alice, melting her ice away, leading her to start caring for Selka in a sisterly way as well. Especially in such hard times with how her father Gasfut Tsuberg acts, as you have seen in previous trailers, banishing her from the town, how the townsfolk takes advantage of her that you will see, and of course how hopeless and alone she feels when taking care of the lifeless Kirito. Selka pretty much acts as a beacon of hope for her, helping her keep up with everything going around her, instead of, giving up and snuffing out her own flocklight as a way out. The scene you see with the teary-eyed Selka, however, does not belong to these peaceful moments, but rather a scene we will get to see shortly. But the event that you saw earlier, the one that caused Kirito to attempt crawling on the floor to reach out for the divine weapons, causes her to leave that peaceful hope behind and requires her to be the shining hope herself, the knight in golden armor of the innocent villagers and disgusting landlords of Rulid. And that is the reason why the first volume of War of Underworld is called Alicization Invading, the first proper scale invasion from the Dark Territory. We hear Kikoka talking about how Kirito is their final hope, full aware that he is not in a condition to be the hope of anyone at all, as we see the dozen mercenaries get closer and closer to their goal with the haunting line of Gabrielle Miller: "Your soul will surely be sweet." Well, this trailer makes it seem like that line comes absolutely out of nowhere. This was something that should have been teased all the way back in episode 1 in a 4th BOB flashback of Shinon. In episode 25, you will return to Gangale Online and see this moment from the perspective of Subtilizer, Gabrielle Miller's Eugeo avatar, but the contents of episode 1 had this exact haunting line by Subtilizer when he was suffocating Shinon with his bare hands, putting an end to her chances of winning the 4th bullet of bullets. These were the final words Shinon had heard before being returned to the lobby. And this line right here was actually a callback to that specific moment, which, unsurprisingly, it wasn't for the anime audience. Seriously, you guys have missed so much while watching the anime, and I strongly recommend you check out my Alicization Explained series to learn more about all the things that the anime has skipped so far. There's an entire chapter in the book that the anime skipped, entire character backstories, motivations, a proper explanation for incarnation, etc. On top of the fact that they outright ruined the ending of episode 24, which was the emotional high point of Kirito's entire journey, when he couldn't even remember who the nostalgic voice coming from the console belonged to. Either way, I'm going on a tangent. Yes, anime skipped too much when it was cramming 6 volumes into 24 episodes. Go check out Alicization Explained. You're gonna appreciate this whole story a whole lot more. Moving on with the trailer now. With the brand new theme, Resolution by Asuna's voice actor Haruka Tomatsu kicking in, we see Alice during the Rulid invasion against goblins and orcs alike, announcing to the villagers, merchants, and the village elder, her father Gasfut Tsuberg, as well as the creatures trying to invade Rulid, that she is a knight of the human empire and takes the reins of authority back into her hands after suffering under their orders for about 6 months. The title card here makes it very clear Alice will be the main character for the majority of the war, at least the first half of the war. Human Realm arc was pretty much full on Eugeo's journey, but A1 didn't really care that much and put Kirito under spotlight again. Now, it's actually Alice's journey, and A1 has absolutely no choice but to let her actually have her story, thanks to Kirito being too busy drooling on his dual wheeler. I have no clue why the second-long clips here are edited so frantically and completely out of proper sequence, but we constantly switch between Alice with an eye patch and without an eye patch. Just know that whenever you see her without an eye patch, it's a scene that takes after the eye patch scenes, although they are all from the invasion event as a whole. I sure do hope the anime does not skip the fears and insecurities Alice was feeling that caused her to never rip the eye patch off before, otherwise I'll go on another extensive rant on how A1 simply wants to butcher every single personal moment any of these characters had in the novels. I love the moment when Alice simply breaks a sword with her bare hands though. Many people think that she's destroying her own sword as making a statement or something. She isn't, simply check the color if you don't believe me. The color of the sword is much more bronzish than her usual golden osmanthus blade, and chances are she couldn't even break a divine weapon like the osmanthus blade with her hands anyways. This is the weapon of a goblin invading the town at that very moment, right before Alice and Amayori wreak havoc at the street opening up to the town center, but to be frank, this moment is pretty much the least badass thing she does in this absolutely amazing scene. This is an entire sequence where Alice announces her true identity as an Integrity Knight of the Axiom Church, the title she never wanted to wear again since running away months ago, getting the support of her father, the Chief Elder Gosford Tsuberg, and throws that disgusting fucking Nigel Barbosa the fuck off the scene. I do want to see that dickhead getting thrown around quite a lot. I really do hope they don't use too many of those experimental weird angles in these epic moments and go with what's actually proven as quote-unquote heroic. More scenes flash on the screen however, and since many of you seem confused, I believe this screenshot is as good of a time as any to address this. No, the Blue Rose sword has not been fixed, it is very much still in half, it's just that it's stuffed back into its scabbard so you don't see the bit where it's broken. We see a whole bunch of crying here towards the very end of volume 15, so this is most probably episode 5 ending or very early episode 6. The trainee pages of Kirito and Eugeo, Ronnie and Tease respectively, are part of the small human empire army and are responsible for supplies, and you can hear how small the army is from Berkuli and Eldri in the voiceover, in a flashback scene from the Axiom Church. With around 50k warriors of the Dark Territory, there are only 3,000 soldiers of the human empire that barely had any training at all. All Integrity Knights are pretty much all aware that even their overpowered memory release skills won't be enough to stop the oncoming onslaught. However, once Alice arrives at the eastern gate and takes a break from her initial plans of I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, so I'll listen to the stranger on the magical device that told Kirito to go south. Naturally, Ronye and Tease recognize her as the knight who arrested Kirito and Eugeo and decide to have a chat, only to learn Eugeo had died and Kirito had suffered a fate worse than death. And the proof of that specific statement is the fact that Ronye's tears do absolutely nothing at all, while Tease's tears were powerful enough to get some attention. You see the remaining Integrity Knights during Berkuli and Eldri's speeches, and you can see how desperate Berkuli is, even inviting Fizel and Linel that none of the other Integrity Knights even trust. But the kids will sure make them all very proud really soon with their cunning. There are two knights you don't see in this specific picture but will meet really soon on the battlefield, both quite interesting and charming personalities, Sheita the Silent and Randy Synthesis 27, so keep your eyes peeled for them. On the other side we have the Dark Territory generals going one by one, starting with the leader of the beast-headed ogres on the left, Furgerd, or at least that's what everyone believes his name is, as his words are not very well pronounced, so nobody really exactly knows. He will have quite an intense moment with Alice on the battlefield. On the right though, that is Sigurosig, the chief of the giants, who will have a major battle against Fanatio Synthesis 2 and the leader of her whirling blades, Dakiran. Up next we got the two goblin race leaders. Top left is the chief of the flatland goblins, Shibori, an absolute champ of a warrior and relatively an idiot compared to the chief of the mountain goblins, Kosogi, a tactician himself, who recognizes that the goblin races were being used by the emperor as mere bait and nothing more, and had better plans instead. On the far right you see the leader of the orcs, or as I like to call them, porks, because they have the face of a pig. That is Lilpilin, with the face that is often described as beautiful for an orc. He will have one of the saddest moments though once the war actually begins in volume 16, Alicization Exploding. Next shot, bottom left, is Fu Za, the silent and cunning leader of the Assassin's Guild, one of the people even the Emperor has a hard time reading. In the middle we got Iskan, one of the rather very likable characters of the Dark Territory leadership, the leader of the Pugilists Guild, where their fists do the talking. On the bottom right, there is the Rengil Gila Skobo, he is the leader of the Merchants Guild. Last but not least, the most quote-unquote interesting of them all for the Emperor, and possibly the most influential, if you can hope to influence the Emperor himself, two pairs of absolutely unreadable and determined eyes. The one on top belongs to DIL, the Chancellor of the Dark Mages Guild, an absolute powerhouse in sacred arts. Although she does crave for all the knowledge Quinella the Undying One possessed, especially with the passing of the Administrator, she is not someone you want to cross with. On the other half of the screen, Vixur ul Shasta, the commander of the Dark Knights Brigade, elite soldiers of the Dark Territory. The swordsman that had faced Integrity Knights before in combat and has even impressed the commander Berkuli himself. With a past darker than the Dark Territory itself, he follows the path created by his vision for a brighter future. The passionate and intellectual leader is someone even the Emperor himself has his concerns about. But then there is the Emperor himself, the one who has been in a slumber inside the throne room of the Obsidia Palace for hundreds of years, awakened just in time for the impending stress test, eagerly marching towards the eastern gate of the human empire. With his lack of empathy for the artificial floodlights of the simulation he has dived into, Gabriel Miller has the cruelest plans to reach his goals. And accompanying him is the Prince of Hell himself. You've seen him before, but War of Underworld is where you truly get to meet him. But the following scene is where I drop the theatric introductions and get serious. The screenshot that literally everyone and their grandmother uses to clickbait you. This scene is towards the end of volume 15, and I will let you know exactly what is happening here. For the past 6 months, Alice has been taking care of Kirito every single night. She kept looking for a sign of hope. The first person she met after denouncing the church and no longer being a puppet, the person she fought alongside for her life to protect each other, and Eugeo. And from the fiercest battle she had ever lived through, Eugeo was the luckiest to not even survive, causing Kirito to go completely lifeless, while she was the one to burden all the weight, the losses, the Integrity Knights, their accusations, getting rejected by her own father, blaming herself for the loss of Selka's real sister, being just a tool for the villagers. At her lowest, there were times where she just wanted to end it all, but every now and then, with great sadness and the brimmest light of hope, she checks Kirito for a sign of life, any sign of life, to see the spark that started it all. And here, in the war tent, in the brink of an impossible war, she is looking into Kirito's eyes for that light one last time with the faint hope, but no matter how close she gets to the eyes with the color of the gentle night sky, all she sees is the same lifeless look of despair. There's absolutely nothing romantic in the scene, it's a moment of grief and utter hopelessness, and that's all there is to it. But after all this serious talk, whatever I say can't really have any more weight than the previous narrations, so we got Amayori blasting off a bunch of goblins and Alice crying because the shit's going down. One final thing I must clarify, the narrator says its final chapter finally begins. No, it's not saying SAO is over, there is still Unitil Ring to go after Alicization. The narrator is literally referring to War of Underworld here. Alicization consists of two sub-arcs, the Human Realm arc, which is the first half, and War of Underworld, which is the second half. Don't get panicky and stuff, it's just the final chapter of Alicization is... the final chapter of Alicization indeed. Whew, what an explained. Personally, for the first 6 episodes, I am most excited for scenes involving Vixur ul Shasta, the Dark Knight General. He is by far my favorite character in War of Underworld, followed by Sheita and Berkuli, and I can't wait to see his story and memories get portrayed on screen. But if you made it this far, comment time for Alicization Invading to let me know. War of Underworld is beginning on October 12th, and until then I got a couple more videos ready to go, and once the journey begins again, the regular Alicization Explained and Alicization Q&A videos will continue among some other surprise projects, so make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon for all that. In fact, why don't we start a Q&A right away? Ask me questions, I will answer them in a video next week. You can ask anything regarding Alicization or SAO in general. If you have questions regarding War of Underworld, ask it with a spoiler warning at the beginning, so we don't get people spoiled in the process like Foxen does on a daily basis. But that's it for this video. I recently received a big surge of subscribers with all the SAO games and anime coverage, so this is your final chance to get that 25k subscriber merch to mark yourself as the original 25k. Once I reach 30k subs, the celebration merch is leaving for good and you won't have a chance to get it again. If you enjoyed this video though, make sure to leave a like. Every like kills a goblin in the Dark Territory and makes the Integrity Knight's job a little bit easier. Thank you for watching, and as always, a special thanks to all my patrons, channel members and Valgraph. Until next time, stay cool.